What's up, everybody? I'm starting this video at exactly 10:10 p.m. Unintentionally, but and I'm also trying to be as quiet as possible because I'm in a hotel, and I know that hotels have like paper thin walls, and I don't want to be that guy. But I am going to be that guy right now that apologizes a little bit for my last video that I did. So, I mean, I'm apologizing, but I'm also not at the same time, and I know that sounds strange, but I'm always genuine. Hopefully, people like respect me for that. I hope. I've heard a lot of feedback that people love how open and honest I am. What you heard in my last video, I still stand behind to some degree, but there was a certain intensity that I'm trying to reel it back in a little bit. I kind of went in hard on the Gnostic folks and the Eastern philosophy folks and stuff like that, and then the ego death folks as well. And I'm just going to go like right out and say that I resonate deeply with a lot of that stuff, big time. Okay, and I'm sure that a lot of those folks, because, again, I'm only like 2 years into this whole thing, right? And only like a year into believing in Jesus and stuff. And so I feel like that there's probably a lot of you that are way more experienced than I am that are kind of like, oh, yep, I remember when I was like that. Yep, he's in the I don't know what to believe phase, and there's so many truths out there that he's kind of like testing to see which, and I'm sure you can look back and be like, I remember when I was going through that too. And so in so many words, just kind of like grit your teeth and kind of move on. Hopefully, my goal here is to let people see my full development and not hold anything back. I give you the full scoop. I want you to see and hear and feel my mistakes. I want to be a case study, almost, if you will, of this is what being an atheist for 37 years and then being dropped into God is like. Just dropped right into the grease. I want people to see the full details, all the sausage making going on there. And so this is one of those instances. And so circling back, though, on this whole truth thing, there was, first of all, I didn't quite articulate all the points that I wanted to articulate. I didn't articulate them very well. It wasn't my best work. Some parts were pretty good, I think, but overall, there's a couple things that I kind of didn't quite express properly. But also there's a couple things that I missed entirely altogether. And one of the main things that I missed altogether was the whole concept of, I may have touched on it a little bit, but it's this overused phrase, and it used to make me cringe. It's like speaking and knowing my truth. It's like, well, there's objective truth out there. Why is it your truth? Like you're making up your own little universe. Well, the facts is that we are making up our own little universe, period. That's exactly how this works. Everything you see and experience is interpreted through your own brain and consciousness, right? And just to piggyback on that real quick, yes, I'm back home from my trip, but I heard like this tiny little window of opportunity here in what I was saying when I was re-listening to what I was saying here. That I was like, hey, I need to slip this in a little bit. So if you're doubting this whole, we create our own truths thing, let me just kind of wedge in a couple of points that I heard on a podcast. It was the Lex Friedman podcast. I'm beginning to like that podcast more and more each day, or each time that I listen to it. But he had on this a mathematician is named Edward Frenkel. And by the way, go listen to this guy. Go listen to that podcast, the Lex Friedman podcast with Edward Frenkel. To me, Edward Frenkel completely embodies exactly where I sit on this whole issue of science versus mysticism versus religion versus, whatever. All of the mystical side versus all of the practical, bean counter, nuts and bolts side. He completely embodies and articulates exactly where I sit. And so I didn't realize that until after listening to this particular podcast. But anyway, he brought up a very good point. if you're doubting this whole we create our own truths kind of thing, and reality is created in our own head, kind of thing. And by the way, that's a big reason why I look at people that tell me, "Oh, your psychedelic experiences were just in your head." I'm like, duh. What else you got for me? Everything's in our head. But anyway, so if you're doubting that stuff, he brought up the good point of just about all of the major sciences dealing with reality, right? We're talking relativity, we're talking quantum mechanics and all that stuff, right? That they're based around the observer, 100%. And it's been like 100% proven and tested and, experimentally validated time and time again over the course of like 100 years now, right? And the observer and relativity plays a critical role. Events in the universe that person A would look at as being simultaneous to person B in a different, in warped space-time, basically, or if you're accelerating, which also warps space-time, or whatever. If you're just in a different configuration, no matter what, basically, in relativity, the idea of simultaneity is completely thrown out the door, right? Time passes slower for person A versus person B, et cetera, et cetera. You're essentially creating a new universe around your warped space-time. You're essentially creating reality by observing. Same thing happens and is more central and more thematic to quantum mechanics. You go look up anything about quantum mechanics, y'all. It's all about the observer for the most part. There are other. I'm not going to get into all the little details here, all the little intricacies, but the observer plays a critical role. The observer collapses the wave function. Essentially, entanglement is another big thing. You could argue that all these subatomic particles get entangled with the conscious observer, and that forms a reality, right? So it's all, again, the observer. But then he goes even further, which is a mind. So that stuff I already kind of knew, I don't profess to be I've never sat down with any of these equations, but I understand the concepts, pretty well. But then he threw out something that I'm just now I've always heard that Gödel's incompleteness theorem undermined mathematics. Like any truths that you think are true in math, because everyone always points to like 2 + 2 = 4, and that's true. Gödel's incompleteness theorem comes in and says, no, it's not. And there's this brilliant explanation as to why, and why like all math and all numbers basically are a paradox. It's, this statement is false, right? That sentence right there, this statement is false, is a complete mind job, okay? And that's kind of like the paradox there, but he made the good point, and this being the most prolific mathematician of our time right now, Edward Frenkel, he pointed out that the observer selects or groups together, curates, or whatever you want to say, the axioms in the world of Gödel's incompleteness theorem, or in mathematics in general. Because, anyways, so again, the observer plays a critical, vital role, not only in all these sciences, but in the very measuring apparatus, or whatever you want to call mathematics, the underlying system that we have, the oil and the gasoline, or whatever you want to call it, like the infrastructure of all these sciences is based off of math. And math, once again, is curated by the observer. The observer creates the reality there, essentially. So if you're doubting this whole truth thing, or the observer creates truth, then that's just a thought there to chew on. Back to me in the hotel. It has to be your own truth. There is no other way around it. There's no other way. And so, in a sense, I think that we will never know true objective truth, because it's filtered through our own consciousness. And, I don't even want to start, peeling the onion on what that even means, if it's filtered through our own consciousness, but yet we create observance creates reality, and so it's like a feedback loop. I'm not gonna go there. I'm gonna spend the rest of the night trying to think my way through that one. But what I'm trying to say here ultimately is that do take everything I said in the last episode. Do definitely think deeply on it. But I did come off as a little browbeating and on my soapbox, and I'm sorry. That's not. I just get riled up about this stuff because it's so deep and personal to me, and the deepest and most personal you can possibly imagine. And yes, it's an ego thing. Totally, I fully admit it, fully. And I think over time I'm getting better at that. But anyways, coming back around to this whole truth thing. We have to create our own version of the truth. We all have our own little spin on it. And it's as open, and as open as we want to be or think that we can be about this incredibly important subject, we still have our own twist, our own spin, our own interpretation. Someone accused me of cherry picking one time, like from different areas. It's like, you damn Skippy. Of course I am. I welcome anyone to do that. To take any one thing as the full answer, I think it's not dangerous per se. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's just not. You just keep your mind open, I guess. And me saying that just now, I need to keep my mind more open too, because I'm so locked into my version of this truth, my truth, that I throw a little temper tantrum still. And I've gotten better at not throwing as big a temper tantrum, but it still comes out every now and then. But the thing is like for all of my signs and synchronicities that I have supporting my truth, there's an infinite amount of other signs for other people supporting their truth. And so I can't sit here and say that my signs are more important than your signs. But then you start throwing scary stuff out there like David Koresh and his signs, and it's like, that is scary stuff, y'all. Scary stuff. But again, I'm not apologizing for the stuff that I said per se. I'm apologizing for the way I said it and the way I came down. One of the deepest, most synchronistic, amazing things that's ever happened to me ever involved an incredibly Gnostic thing that was written in a book by Robert Monroe about astral projection. On one of his astral projection encounters, well, actually one of his subject, like one of his understudies, rather, because he founded the Monroe Institute, and one of the people that he was training ran into Jesus. And the whole book, y'all, was nothing but kind of, I hate to say it, kind of depressing stuff. Very nihilistic in nature, like take the first, or take a big chunk of my trip number 10, Beyond Infinity. All of the bad stuff there in terms of we mean nothing, we're infinitely small in the face of infinity and all this other stuff, and therefore we mean nothing. Most of the book was like that, and it was very depressing. And I was like, well, dude, I've seen all that stuff too, but where's all the love? Because I definitely experienced an infinite amount of love, which is a hilarious joke. It's a hilarious paradox that despite us being infinitely small, God loves us infinitely so, and you infinitely so. And he can, because he's infinite. But anyway, I'm skimming through the book, and I'm going to try to edit this video on my phone. I don't have my laptop with me here. I'm at a client thing in Kansas right now. But I'll try to put the picture of these 2 pages that I came across of where this woman understudy of Dr. Monroe, he wasn't a doctor, of Robert Monroe, encountered Jesus. And this is what Jesus said, y'all. Read this and weep. read it and weep, because it's exactly what it made me do. Here we go. Check it out. And so that, me stumbling upon that, came at an unbelievably amazing time in my life. Well, a very dark time. And I was looking for all kinds of hope and stuff like that. And then that leapt out at me right at the perfect time, right when at the peak of one of the most depressing kind of like, is God still out there kind of moments? Is Jesus real kind of moments? That particular passage, y'all, is so unbelievably beautiful. To me, that's like that should be the last book in the Bible. And I know only 2 pages is not really a book, but y'all, the book of Mary Magdalene is like 2 pages. But to me, it's like that's almost like the last thing that Jesus said to society as a whole. It's unbelievably beautiful. The Gnostic way of looking at Jesus, y'all, really does resonate with me, but so does the standard biblical canon. And so, as my ear is ringing, my ear just started ringing just now. And so, I don't know. I think it was both, honestly. Right at 11 minutes and 11 seconds on the video. I need to stop with all these signs, y'all. It's driving me crazy. But by the way, that's going to be what my next video is about. I had a unbelievable. Well, first of all, let me just go out and tell y'all that I closed a 7-year chapter in my life. One could say it was a 16-year chapter, but specifically the last 7 years of which have been one of the reasons why I got into this whole thing in the first place. Well, I'll just let the cat out of the bag here. I reconciled with my ex-wife. Unbelievable stuff. I've been getting a lot of deep messages about needing to reconcile with her. A lot of times on my experiences, cups will show up, and it's not the whole meaning, but there's a part of the meaning behind cups that actually does involve her. And it all kind of came to a crescendo, and I was getting these deep synchronicities, not about her. I was getting some communication that I need to reconcile with her. But right around that time is when I made the horses video. And I kept getting sign after sign, synchronicity after synchronicity about horses and surrendering and, like the concept of being laid down in the arena and being completely vulnerable. And it was just horse synchronicity after horse synchronicity. It was happening, no joke, not joking around, every day. And so when I finally bit the bullet and reached out to my ex and said, hey, do you want to meet up? There's some things we should talk about. Not only was I amazed that she was receptive, but here's the creepy part, and creepy in a good way. It was like kind of later, in the day, and I had not, it's like night and whatever, and I had not gotten a horse synchronicity that whole day. And it was like for a week and a half straight, every day. And I was like, where is my horse synchronicity? So she messages back and says like something to the effect of, hey, Hoss. Yeah. It was like, hey, Hoss, how you doing? Yes, I would like to meet up and discuss some things. Y'all, if you don't know, Hoss in the South in particular is an old school slang word for horse. And so I've never heard her use that word before in the 8 years that we were together. She's certainly never called me that before. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, she calls me a hoss. And so, anyways, so that whole synchronicity led to an incredibly amazing breakthrough for me. It was 2 people that needed to be forgiven and needed to forgive, and we both did that. And it was unbelievably amazing. Closed a 7-year chapter. But my next video that I'm going to do is going to be about I'm going to save the whole what hell is like on ayahuasca, what hell and evil is like. That one is going to require a whole lot more work. I'm also working on another couple of trip episodes. But this one, the next one I want to do, because it's fresh on my mind and it's fresh. It's fresh in me, like it happened recently. Is this whole thing about synchronicity and how some of them can be incredibly deep and profound, like that one with my ex-wife, like the whole mile marker 666 on the highway and the crucifix, which, by the way, there is an unbelievable twist to that story. Like, I remember this whole thing where I thought it was someone else, not the actual person I thought it was, because there was a different cross with a different person's name. Come to find out, y'all, there was another cross. There's two crosses there, two. Synchronicity, y'all, is an unbelievable thing. And I want to, that's what my next video is going to be about. It's going to be about, you have some of these that just knock you off your feet. And then you get some that make absolutely no sense at all. And it's like, what's the deal here? And so that's what my next video is going to be about. But okay, we're 20 minutes into this now. All of my videos are always this long. It's like, I'm just giving you a quick little update, and next thing you know, I look down and it's 20 minutes long. Love you all. Talk to you all soon. Peace out. Much love to everybody. See you soon.